Hello, welcome to the PVCC Student Lens podcast. I'm Esperanza.
I'm Noel.
And I'm Victory.
And so today we are talking about managing relationships, something very important and can be very difficult when you are in school or maybe you just started a new job. So we kind of want to go over some things that you might deal with, if not now, the future in relationships. So we're going to start off with Noel today.
Okay, we are, huh? All right. So I am going to talk about, since I am a little older than my partners here, I'm going to talk about raising kids as a single mom. I'm also going to school full-time, working in part-time jobs, and tell you a little bit about what I do on the weekends to fill my free time. So raising kids as a single mom, I've actually been doing that for 14 years, since the kids were 2 and 5 years old. I have 2 sons who are almost 20 and 17 now. And I will say that it does have significant challenges, probably a little bit more than with a 2-parent household, whether you have a spouse or a partner in the house to help support you through, we were just talking about behaviors like lying or skipping school or things that kids do. It's just really hard when you're the only parent who's enforcing any type of serious consequences. So I would just say, if you are in that position, you want to try to find some help, whether it be a parent that you're close to or a grandparent that you're close to, or even close girlfriends or boyfriends who have kids who can maybe be your community to help you with the situations that might come up. And going to school full-time, also challenging with the kids. They were in school. My one son's still a junior. The other son is out and working in the world. But my schedule is conflicting sometimes with their schedules, different spring breaks, different days off. And I just can't always be there at the normal, 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock after school. So luckily with the kids being older, for me, it worked out great because I didn't go back to school till they were in high school. But if you have younger kids, that's where you definitely do need to ask for help. A lot of single moms want to do it on their own. I did too. I always thought I had to do everything by myself because you're the parent and you think that it's your responsibility, and it is to a certain point, but you have to realize that you're just one person, and especially if you're outnumbered with 2 kids or more, as some people are, it should not ever be that hard to ask for help, because ultimately, if you're not in a good place psychologically, or you're so stressed out because of all the things you're doing with work and school as a single parent, you're gonna bring that home to the kids and they're gonna feel that. And I will say admittedly that they have felt that. I mean, there are days where I'm super stressed at a paper and I can't maybe hang out with them after school. Sometimes they actually still wanna do that with me. And I have to say, no, I've got a paper to write. Or they come in and they want to hang out and I have to write a paper and I'm only giving them half my attention. So try to maybe carve out time, even though you're so busy, for the kids, no matter what age they are, because they do notice it even as they get older into their teens.
I would say, to add to that, Noel, sorry, just as someone who works with kids, because I know that I especially have all or nothing thinking like, oh, I'm the only one that's able to take care of them. Meanwhile, I'm managing like 20 kids at a time, and I'm like, I'm the only one that can do this because I know them better than anybody else, but then I have my partner, and then you have to remember that there's always a fresh perspective. There's always a different approach to the situation. It may not be your favorite approach, but it's definitely a new one you can try. And that's the thing, is you have to experiment with them, which sounds awful because they're not experiments, but you really do. You have to test things out. You have to see what works. You have to see what doesn't, because maybe yelling at them and them screaming, crying, and then just keep being bad, maybe that's not the way you should go about things. Right. Maybe we should try something else.
So smart.
Yeah, and also like talking to them is a good thing. Like seeing what they would rather prefer. Like that's what me and my family do. I was going to bring it up a little later, but we try to figure it out all together. Like we have these little family meetings almost, maybe once a month, where we talk about our schedules, see what everyone has free, when we can all do one family thing together, so that we can not feel like we're just ignoring each other.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. That's really smart. And I try to do that a little bit, once in a while when my older son isn't working now and my younger son is willing. We actually a couple weeks ago went and saw a movie together. That's one thing we can still all do that we enjoy. I do make them still watch the Disney movies, even though they're older, because I like them. And they like, okay, Mom, well, but they always love the movies anyway. It always works out too for them. They never not like the movies. But or maybe even Dave and Buster's. Sometimes we go bowling. I guess we can do that and have fun. So definitely, that's a great idea, Victory. Sitting down. I'm not probably great at that. I didn't learn that technique growing up. But I think that is probably one of the best things you could do, is talk to your kids when they get even older and come together and let them have a voice too. I might try to implement that soon. Also want to just mention, we're going to talk about also not family and kid relationships, but also our dating relationships. And we're at different levels of our lives. I've had more than one marriage, more than one divorce. My kids are both from the same dad. But I was married young in my 20s. I was actually married again in my 30s, and those marriages didn't work out, but I'm back in a really positive, healthy relationship for the last 4 years dating. We live separately, and I did find that moving in with people when you're not married is not always the best idea. It seemed good at the time, and when you're younger it seems really good because you want to be with that person. But when you have kids especially, sometimes it's better just to keep your own section of life with the kids until maybe they're a little older, not to introduce people. If I had to give advice on that, I would just say wait a long time if you're a single mom before you introduce them to a significant other, just because kids, as flexible as they are and understanding as they are when they're younger, they still get attached to people. And you know, it's not healthy for them to become attached and then have to become detached. That's definitely, I would say, a mistake that I made when the kids were a little bit younger, and luckily my kids are well adjusted, so no hard damage was done. But that's not to say that it can't be, and I do know other kids who that probably has happened to. You probably have kids that don't have a two-parent household and maybe see that sort of thing.
Most of my kids currently do have a two-parent household,
nice.
But I have had some kids where even at 5 years old, their parents have gone through custody battles, and it is hard. I've seen it happen firsthand, of like just a kid crying, just like, I miss my mom. I don't understand why I can't see her. This is so frustrating. Why is it that I have to be with my dad all the time? Like, I just want them to be together again at 5 years old. And right. It is just, it's a very hard experience. But I would also say, as kind of off topic, my parents, just to like add to your thing about managing relationships, dating while having kids, my parents actually went through like a quick break, and it was weirdly one of the best experiences, because I was in middle school during this time, so maybe like 12, 13. I got to meet them individually, which I never got to do before. Right. I got to meet my parents as individuals and see who they were, not together, which I think was a beautiful experience, because now I have my relationships with my mom and my dad are completely different than what they used to be from when I was younger. So I would say that that was a big plus in something.
And they got back together though?
They did, fortunately.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great. So when I got divorced, the kids were 2 and 5. My 2-year-old didn't really know what happened. You know, he was 2. Although he did as 3 and 4 as he got a little older, but my 5-year-old, he knew everything that happened, and it really was a significant, I think, life changer for him to be in the middle often, not by my own choice, really hardly at all. But sometimes it was my choice, and I didn't realize how damaging that could be for him. And it still is. He's almost 20, and honestly, it came up the other night. And it still is. I mean, it's still with him. So I think that it's great that your parents handled it like that, and kudos to them to not make it all weird for you down the road. But talk to your kids. I think open communication is also important. I was going to say, as far as the romance and even kids or any of the relationships we talk about, I think we're all going to touch on it. Communication, I would say, is key. We hear it all the time. We were talking about the 5 Love Languages, the book. And I think we've all read it, and I think it's a great book I've read it 3 times, I think. And just because you got it, it's good to just refresh your memory what they are, and when you meet new people, kind of to read it again to see if you can identify other things for the new people in your life. and just as a reminder to how to be with other people. So I would also say in a relationship, if we're going to talk romantic, or I guess even with kids, sometimes it is not to point fingers at others. We learn about it in Psych 101 here at PVCC. One thing we talked about is recognizing your role in things and taking accountability and responsibility for your portion of a conversation, of an argument, of a blowout, however bad the situation is. And then I am the kind of person, I don't like conflict, and I am an avoider. So I will often try to put it to bed, either stay quiet and move on, or I'll just apologize. And I will say, as an adult through many relationships, saying you're sorry, even if you didn't think you did anything wrong, it's really not that big a deal. And if more people did it, I bet more people would stay married. Because, well, what's the big deal if you just say, oh gosh, you know what, I'm really sorry that we fought. You don't have to say you're sorry for doing anything, right? You can just say, I'm sorry that we fought and that we disagreed.
I was gonna say, no tea, no shade, no pink lemonade, but nothing is sexier than owning up to your actions. I'll say that.
Yes.
Okay.
Nothing is more attractive than for you to be mature, responsible, and willing to accept the fact that you may have made a mistake or that I made a mistake. Nothing is more attractive than that, in my personal opinion.
No, I agree with that. True. It
Yes,
makes you a bigger person, a better person. And if you know your partner's not that person, because not everybody can be that person, sometimes you just have to take the initiative in the relationship if you want it to continue in a good way, just to be the bigger person. And then maybe once in a while have a conversation about, hey, look, I can't always be the one who apologizes. Like, we need to come to some kind of terms on if it's a two-way street. That's a conversation that needs to be had, and that's back to communication is key. So that's what I have to share. All right, so what we were saying was, we were talking about the 5 Languages of Love book and how important it is, really, that everybody reads it. I think it's a very easy read. It's good, probably even for older kids to read early on. I didn't read it till I was in my 40s. I wish I'd had it when I was 18. That would have been really helpful to know the people I was meeting and how best to talk to them. And I think in a relationship, it can really add a lot to your communication strengths, and teach you how to segue any issues that you may have with the other person, or your partner, your spouse, whether you're dating or married or divorced even, to co-parent better. We said communication is key in all relationships. And another important aspect is never to point fingers at the other person, regardless of who's right and wrong. Sometimes it's best to take the high road. I said in my case, I'm an avoider. I don't like conflict. I don't mind apologizing, even if I haven't done anything wrong, because I'd rather have things settled and nice than have something drag on, really probably for no reason at all. And a lot of times you get in a fight, you can't even remember what it was over.
Oh yeah.
So then it's like, that's just ridiculous.
And I'll say it once and I'll say it again. Nothing is more attractive than holding accountability to your actions. Nothing is more attractive than owning up to that, being mature and responsible.
That's right, I couldn't agree more. So I would just say, in all your relationships, child, parent, spouse, partner, just try to think how you want to be treated, and then treat them the same way, and use communication as a tool to do that. So we're gonna let Victory share what she has.
Yeah, so I currently live with my mom and then my brother. My brother's only exactly 15 months younger than me, so we are like really close in age, which can cause some conflict. But the three of us, we do like little things that we've talked about before, where we'll have a sit down, we do like these family meetings, where we will all put like all of our schedules, or our average schedules at least, onto a calendar, talk about it, figure out what time everyone is free and what time like we can all like do something together, so that we can actually like spend quality family time, because we still want to like hang out. We still want to like actually acknowledge each other's existence.
You don't want to be roommates.
No.
Your family.
No.
Right.
And it also doesn't help that we also have a lot of pets as well, so we also have to figure out who has the most free time to take care of this pet, who has the time to take this pet to the vet because they have an upset tummy, and all that kind of stuff. So That's really important, like finding everyone's schedules, especially if you're like living with people that you care about. And then a little more on the romantic side. So I am part of the LGBTQ plus community, and if y'all don't know, it's getting a little more difficult to do some dating or even looking for people that you want to like get to know better right now. So a great way to go about it is dating apps. A lot of cool dating apps are very much more inclusive to the community, especially if you aren't like, you don't have the time to go out to bars or like, or you're not even of age to go to a bar and you still want to like get to know people. Dating apps can be very beneficial. The one I use is called Her, H-E-R. That one is very good for anyone who, it mostly goes for anyone that is either a woman or non-binary specifically, but it is inclusive for everyone. So that one is a big one you can go to there for LGBTQ plus dating.
But we were saying earlier too about dating apps, and also that's how I met my boyfriend 4 years ago, was a dating app. But they can be dangerous. You do have to be careful. You do have to take safety precautions, especially as you know, females or just single people. Make sure you know who you're meeting, and make sure you meet publicly.
Well, I was going to say, especially for LGBT, because as far as you know, that's some, like, especially if you are a gay man, I've heard a lot of horror stories about gay men meeting up with guys who are straight, and then they don't realize that the straight guys are coming just to harass them and tell them that they're this, they're that, or whatever, you know. So it's like, you really gotta be careful. You gotta watch out who you're talking to. But I would also say, on the side of dating apps, is that it's a way that you can be private about your sexuality without having to out it to everyone, because not a lot of people don't like to be out, or maybe they're still closeted, they're going through some things, figuring things out about themselves, which I will talk about later. And so it's a great way to kind of like stay in the closet without having to like expose yourself, or maybe you're like, I think I like this, so I'm just gonna try this out. So
yeah. So big thing, communication, even through like dating apps, talking to people and like explaining what you're actually looking for is really important, because a lot of people will go on a dating app for looking for one specific thing, either like hookups, or like there's even people on dating apps that look for friends only.
Right. I suppose that's the thing still, yeah.
Yeah, so you have to like make sure you actually talk to the people that you are talking to, and make sure that you're on the same page, knowing what each other are actually looking for, so you don't like end up A, getting your hopes up, or B, getting someone else's hopes up as well.
So just be clear about your intentions.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then one of the things that we wanted to end on, or at least that I really wanted to end on, was personal relationships with yourself. You always hear that saying, how are you gonna love somebody? How are you gonna love somebody else if you don't? What's the saying? You know what I'm talking about. You gotta love yourself first before you move on to other relationships with people. Which it sounds like, I sound like a broken record. We all do, but it's so true. So I want to talk about key relationships with ourselves, and I think as someone who has really struggled with that my entire life, as we all have, you know, we all struggle with it, but I think the key to being successful with having a relationship with yourself is patience and communication. I know it sounds weird to communicate with yourself, because you're like, do I talk to myself? Like, what if I'm in a grocery store and then people just see me and they think I look weird? Like, no, it's all internal, and that's the thing. So I want to talk about starting small. So maybe you just went through this really traumatic experience, you went through a breakup, you went through this, you went through that. Start small. Think about who you want to be. Think about the person that you wish to see in the mirror. Think about, I know it sounds weird, but manifest. It's like the saying, I think, therefore I am. If I am telling myself that I am this beautiful person, I am intelligent, I'm loving, I'm caring, it will soon become true. Or not soon, it already is. You just have to see it for yourself. It really, that sentence right there has helped me through a lot. I think, therefore I am. The way you think about yourself and the way you manipulate that into turning the negative to a positive, it will change so much about the way you see yourself, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
And like going into that, just overall, like when you wake up, think a lot of positive thoughts, like try to be like, today's gonna be an amazing day. It also helps throughout the day as well, so that your days stay at least much more positive than they could have been if you like start the day and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this today, I don't want to do that today.
Yeah,
it's funny you say that, because this morning I was getting ready and I was so stressed about, you know, our school schedule right now. I've had a midterm paper due this week. It was 10 pages. Then I have comm. I mean, we are still at PVCC. So I had a comm speech due this Friday, plus a quiz the same day in the same class. And I woke up thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed for tomorrow. But I actually said to myself, it's so crazy you say that. I actually said to myself, you know what? You're totally going to get through the next day. You got your paper turned in. I turned it in yesterday. I got my draft for my speech done and turned it in yesterday so I can finish it today. And I actually said out loud, you're gonna be fine. It's gonna be okay. Yeah. You're gonna do your quiz, whatever that is gonna be, but you're gonna have your speech ready to go and you'll get your points there if you don't do good on your quiz. So
a version of that is just giving yourself some grace. That's what my therapist told me, because we're all a little hard on ourselves. So it's good that we give ourselves that grace. And then again, for small steps, maybe start small routines. For example, people who go through depression have a really hard time maintaining cleanliness or maybe some sort of hygiene. So like, for example, maybe you're struggling to get out of bed to go brush your teeth. And that's a small routine that you can start. Just starting by brushing your teeth every day. Maybe even once a day, it doesn't matter, as long as you're doing it. It's those small little steps that will build up to bigger steps, which I'm going to get into right now, that will really help. Experiment little by little every day. Maybe you want to try a different hairstyle. Maybe you want to try a new chipped nail polish that you haven't taken off for 2 weeks. Stuff like that. It's really helpful to just get you onto the journey of self-reflection and better health for yourself. Some bigger steps are finding out who you are, your values, your love language, learning styles, how you process emotion, how you regulate those emotions, and how you react to other people. I think it's very important that you take a step back and look at the way you're acting, because I think it really tells a lot about you, and it also helps you learn what you are doing right or doing wrong, and it really just helps to learn more about you. And another big step is people have meditation. I personally don't meditate just because I'm like totally in my brain and I think too much, and I can never like settle down and just sit there. But it does help a lot of people.
You'd be perfect candidate for meditation then, if that's how you are. You know, in JD in our honors lounge, check out JD's office. Our professor, he has one of those sound bowls. Do you know what those are?
Yeah.
I know you do. You know what it is? Sound bowl?
No.
He has one.
Yeah.
And he runs the little thing around the edge. And
on the honors retreat, we did a meditation together.
See?
But that's when I realized meditation was not for me. I really wasn't enjoying it. I'm not gonna lie. But it works for a lot of people.
Know your strengths.
Again, knowing my strengths, trying things out, experimenting, because I learned that meditation was not
At least
for
you
me.
tried it.
And then there's really big steps, such as therapy, which I did talk about earlier. So like if you're going through something, or even if you're like, you know what, that's a bunch of mumbo jumbo, that doesn't really work for me, there's no way that I'm struggling with all these other things. You have no idea until you talk to someone, and then, because you go in, especially for me, I went in and I was like, nothing's really gonna be wrong with me, and then like after 10 sessions later, I'm like, everything in my life is cured, because I had to cry it out for about an hour twice a week. So and then
I would say finding the right therapist too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's so important.
But if you are someone who can't afford therapy, or maybe you're not really wanting to get into that too hot and heavy, because it is a very traumatic thing to go through, because you're kind of reliving your trauma. So I would say also allowing yourself to talk about your experiences, whether it's with yourself or whether it's with other people, communication with yourself. So like, for example, I go out on drives, like long drives, or at least I used to do it this summer.
$6
and then but I would talk to myself, and I would talk through things that I was thinking about in that moment, or maybe things that I felt I couldn't express to other people. And I got to learn so much about myself. I'm like, oh, that's why I think like that, or that's why I am the way I am, because of that little thing that I just talked about. And to me personally, it really connects the dots, and I think it's a great way to know about yourself without having to go through therapy.
And then if I could add, for our campus, we have free counseling at Paradise Valley Community College. So anybody who hears this who might be coming to school, we have a counseling department, personal counseling, not just academic counseling, where you can talk to someone for free, and you talk to the same person all the time. It's Dr. Chapman or Mr. Rubin. I think there's one other person in that department, and they've been doing this for years with students of all ages, really. So they're there to help. They're here to help us on campus with our issues. And as I said, affordability wise, therapy can be expensive. You know, starting $80, $90 or more an hour. Not everyone. I've seen counselors before. Sometimes only when I can afford them if insurance didn't pay, which oftentimes it doesn't. So this is just a great resource to know that we have it on our campus, and anyone can use it as a student. So
and then just some wrap-up advice on relationships with oneself. If you didn't get anything from what I said, hear me now. Other people's opinions on you are none of your business. It sounds weird to say, but it truly isn't. The only person's opinion of you that matters is your own. That is the only opinion that matters. Also, another thing, if you, especially for people who are like trying to gain weight, trying to lose weight, going through body physical changes, and you're not seeing results, because I've struggled with that my entire life. I will say it, and I'm an advocate for this. I learned it from a famous drag queen, Katya Zamolchikova. Expectations are premeditated resentments. If you expect something to happen so immediately, you are going to resent the fact that it didn't work, and you are going to give up. And that is something that is not healthy. You need to be able to give yourself some patience and to work things through and to take the time to let results come in. And then my last thing, my last thing, you are given truly one body and one lifetime that we know of. And it is such an original and unique experience to be yourself. No one else gets that opportunity but you. You only get one mind, you get one body, you get one heart and one spirit, so you might as well take care of it and nourish it while you have it.
Wow, that's really heavy but really smart. Your kids must love you in class. You're a great teacher, Esperanza. I think you're a great teacher. You're going to be a great mom one day.
I hope
you guys are, if you choose to do that.
Then one last thing that I just want to say before we wrap up is your mental health is so important. So even if you want to like try to balance like 1,000 things at once, or you think you can do it, please make sure you're taking care of yourself mentally and physically. It's so important, and no matter like what you're doing in school, what you're doing in work, take care of yourself.
And if I can add, I'll just add one more thing to Victory, her statement about mental health. If you don't have a good support system, and you can't get a good support system, and you have one of those days where you just crash and burn because you're overstressed and overtaxed, just try to remember, which is always hard when it happens, that there is another day behind it, and another hour really, and you can get back to feeling better if you just take a minute and just remember that you can kind of reset and start over, whether it's the next hour or the next day or even the next week if it takes you that long to get back. So don't ever discount the moment you crash and burn to say that's it. Because it's not until it's over, right? It's not over till it's over.
Again, give yourself some grace.
Give yourself some grace. Give yourself a day off if you need it.
That's right.
Like don't try not to get to the point that you crash and burn. Like it happens, but also like watch yourself. If you notice that you're getting too stressed, take a day off.
And be healthy. Exercise
healthy,
if you can, if you're physically capable, even if it's just a walk once in a while, or a drive even, just to clear your mind, listen to music in your head, or maybe see a movie by yourself, which not everybody does, but I've done it a couple times in my life to get away from things. And I have to say, it's weird, but it is actually calming. I will say that too.
It's a mini date with yourself, which is so healthy.
Have a date with yourself.
Yes.
All right. That's great. Great advice.
And that is Managing Relationships on the PVCC Student Lens podcast.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
This is Victory.
This is Noelle.
And this is Esperanza. Thank you for watching or listening.
Find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and Instagram.
Apple Podcasts. We're finally on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to us from there.
Thank you, Esperanza. We'll see you again next week.
Bye.
All right, bye.